guest is Bob Heil of Heil Sound and Microphones, of which, Bob, I still have 12 of your mics sitting in here.
You have more than I have.
Well, somehow or another, I decided I'd have a microphone per radio, and it's kind of been a gift that just keeps giving.
That's
on that. I first got to work Bob actually back in 2007, back when he was still active on 6 meters and everything. And then we worked a couple times on 20 meters. And so, Bob, thank you very much for joining us this month.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Where are most of you?
Scattered throughout San Antonio, Texas, and the region.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, good. Well, always happy to do these things. I think this is about number 320 that I've done since February of 2020. When the pandemic started, I used to go to clubs, but I can't do that anymore. I can't run around like we used to. At least I take care of myself like that. But I found that Zoom is really something special, and you can record it and play it later for those that weren't here or whatever. And it's really a great thing. So ham radio is we're really benefited by all of that. So thanks for having me. We'll get things rocking when you're ready.
Anytime, sir. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, let's see what we're going to, let me get that other camera. There we go. Okay. I want to make sure that goes. Okay. That come up okay for you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you might have to full screen it on your side, but I don't, because I don't share my screen. I let you do that. And,
okay.
That works great. Okay. Well, as you can see, it all started with me with a Harvey Wells back in 1956. One of my high school chums got a ham radio license, and I thought that'd be pretty neat. So my parents bought me the TBS 50D and SX99, and the TBS 50 is still with me. In fact, it's right down there. I was on the air this morning with it. It's original tubes. It's quite amazing. All the capacitors and all of the components. I haven't touched it since 1956. So that's really great that it's still working. But I love AM. I spend most of my time on AM. But let's get with the program here. I started when I was 12 years old. My parents bought me a Hammond organ, a B3, in a cabinet. My gosh, they weren't wealthy people either. But the deal there is I was taking lessons in St. Louis right across the street from Walter Ash, and that's where I got the love for ham radio. And that was the first. I was on the air about 2 weeks, and I heard the most ridiculous signal. I couldn't understand him. Next night, came back. He's still there, or he was there again. And I'm a new ham. I'm fiddling around and with the SX99, and I hit the BFO button, and whoa! Now we got to think about this. 6 meters in 1956. Sideband really wasn't anything to talk about on 20 meters. Here's this guy on 6 meter sideband. He was really thrilled that I came back to him. And each night for a week or so, he'd do tweaking on his new transmitter he built. And that was fun for me. And he was getting some benefit from it. And I played the organ at the Fox Theater in St. Louis in those days, 4 or 5 times a week. And we'd play for 8 minutes, and then we'd hit the button and the console would go down in the basement, and the show would come on for 2-3 hours. And K9EID said, why don't you come and visit me? And so he gave me his address, and I roll up in front of KMOX radio. Larry Burroughs was the chief engineer of CBS. And I asked him, I said, would you build one of those for me? No, I can't do that. But I'm going to teach you how. And he did. Went back to Walt Thrash, got a Central Electronics 10B kit. I bought a grid dip meter, a Millens. I still have it. I still use it. Everybody should have one. And bought all the parts. I had a laundry list that Larry had given me. The chassis and the tube, 6U8, built a 36 meg oscillator, plugged that into the crystal socket, 20 meters coming out of the exciter, and the coil was, they were all plug-in coils. Bingo, I was on 6 meter sideband in 1956, one of the very few. And it just kept growing. I was a building fool. But in 1958, I was one of the few on 6 meter sideband. I loved 6 meters then, but I'd play the Fox and I'd spend time with Larry. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this, that organ had 3,500 pipes from 1 inch to 32 foot. That's where Bob Heil learned to listen. Listening is a mental process. We're really going to get into this in a minute. A lot of people hear, but they don't listen. And that's what taught me how to listen. Well, the station went on. In 1959, I bought a 6 and 2 Thunderbolt kit. So now I had 1.5 kilowatts on 6 meters, had 100 and my parents, what a loving people they were. They allowed me to put up 110-foot roan, and I had a 36-foot long 11 element Telerex, and those were J beams for 2 meters. It was fascinating stuff. The J beam company was quite something in those days. But I got a call one day from Bob Drake, W8CYE. He said, "Are you the guy that's got that kilowatt on single sideband 6 meters?" "I am, sir. We'd like for you to come to our club meeting. We hold a club meeting here once a year. It's a technical meeting." And so a friend of mine that I told him about it, he said, "Hey, I've heard about that. Let's jump in my airplane." And we jumped in his Bonanza and we flew off to the Biltmore Hotel in Dayton, Ohio. Up until 1964, Dayton was held in that hotel. And it was amazing for me because I saw all of these giants. They were like movie stars to me. Carl Mosley, Bill Halligan from Hallicrafter, Wes Shum, who brought single sideband to ham radio. It wasn't Art Collins. He was 6 years late. It was Wes Shum. And all these people were there. Well, the J-Beam company was there. And they asked me, "Hey, we'd like to have you do an experiment for us for one of our antennas, and we need somebody with pretty hefty power." And so they sent over 128 elements on 2 meters. My loving parents, we had a spare lot beside us, and I put up a 50-foot roan, and that's a 50-foot boom. That was a roan. And it was amazing. 2 prop pitch motors. We could pitch it up to the moon. And I was doing crazy stuff in those days. But my little town of Marissa, Illinois, had 2,500 people. Is in the mining countries of Southern Illinois. And I kind of got tired of playing. I'd played for 12 years, 6 nights a week. So I thought, I want to do something. And the bands around the St. Louis area knew about this guy that had a soldering iron, and the word got out. And so I thought, why not? So I started a little music shop. Little did I know what was going to happen. This music shop had people from England and all over America and Canada, because I had things that nobody else had. I did a lot of things for them. And I learned all of that through my own playing. I was really into Hammond organs. That's one of the setups I used for many years. That's a 3-manual Hammond that I built. And all those instruments you see, the piano, all the snare drums and the marimba. They had pinball machine actuators under them that I built, and they all played from the keyboard just like the Wurlitzer theater organ. And so knowing Hammond organs upside down and backwards and forwards, I was able to garner a Hammond organ franchise. And the next thing you know, the Fox called me and they said, hey, we're throwing out some of our old PA systems. Would you like to have them? And well, yeah. These were monster speakers. And I thought, why not? That was just two of them. And that's one side we put together. But the word got out again that we had this sound system, and we started doing some tours around Midwest. We're talking about Dolly Parton. She was only 22, Jerry Lee Lewis, Buck Owens, Porter Wagner, and they'd come in to Kiel Auditorium, and I'd do their shows. Well, the big one I did was in '68, and that was Jimi Hendrix with Janis Joplin. And I didn't realize that there weren't really large sound systems out there at the time. But here I am, a ham radio operator, being able to put it together. Well, I got a call one day from the stagehand at the Fox that had given me those. And he was the guy that used to bring the organ up and down when I was a 15-year-old kid. He said, hey, I got a band in here tonight, and they came in without any PA. Have you got those speakers I gave you a couple of years ago? Yeah. Do they work? Of course they do. And so he handed the phone over to Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. And Jerry was freaked out because I had Macintosh amplifiers. You got Macintosh because, that was kind of out there, but I wanted the best, and away we went. The story is that the Dead were going to go to New Jersey and do a Hells Angels funeral because the Hells Angels were their security. And so what they wanted to do was to travel and try to pay for it. So they did a show in New Orleans, St. Louis, Ohio, and New Orleans. Terrific. Okay. Well, Owsley, their sound man that owned all the sound gear, he was the inventor of LSD. He was on probation. He wasn't to be out of the state of California. So he snuck this one in. He thought, they did that first show in New Orleans. The band came on after they were finished. There were no cell phones. So they came on to St. Louis. Hey, Owsley, we'll see you at 3:00 at the Fox in St. Louis. When he finished loading the truck and all that, the FBI, the DEA padlocked him, took him in a truck. They're gone back to California. So when Garcia and the guys get to the Fox, what are you going to do? Like, oh my gosh, there's no PA. So I brought my stuff up, and I didn't bring the big stuff. We didn't need it for where they were playing. But that was a historic event. You can look it up. And it was a historic event for me because at that time, all of my speakers and things, they were labeled Ye Old Music Shop. And I didn't go on the tour with them because I had people working on our plant and I had to be there at the store. So Jerry called me the next day. They were in Ohio, and he says, hey, Heil, what's this ye old stuff? We can't pronounce all of that. We're just going to call you Heil Sound. Is that okay? You might fine with me. So it is. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. It was Jerry Garcia that named our company Heil Sound. We became very good friends. He would make several trips to Marissa just to come and talk to me and learn about things he was conscious about in audio and all that. And, a lot of people, you're going to question, here I am running around with the biggest drug addicts in the world. I've never tasted beer. I've never smoked anything. For gosh sakes, never did any drugs. But they respected me for that. They really did. And I appreciated that. Well, that night at the Fox, there was a journalist there. He wrote an article about it. You can look it up. The night rock and roll sound was born. And he printed that in Billboard, and it skyrocketed for Heil Sound. But all kinds of groups. Kansas came to this store one morning and bought that mixer you see down there that we were building. And Phil, their drummer back there in the back, he told the story. So we got that mixer and drove back to Topeka and recorded Dust on the Wind. So I have hours of stories that we could get into, but we didn't get here for that. The big one was The Who. I was with The Who for 6 years. Amazing, amazing situation for us. But we were building all these things. And one of the groups we ended up early was Joe Walsh and the James Gang. Two shows into that little tour out in Ohio, we found out we were hams, and we've been lifetime friends forever. And it's fun. Joe did an album in a studio in Nashville, and they had a little 3-inch speaker and a funnel and a little hose. And he put the output of his guitar, not on a speaker, but on that little bitty speaker. And it came out of this hose, and you could mic it up. And that was the original first talk box. But he, a couple of years later in 73, we were putting together Barnstorm. That was his solo band. What were we going to do about that talk box thing? We can't use a 3-inch speaker. That was okay in the studio. And so 2 hams, we figured it out, put a 100-watt driver and I built a fiberglass box. We had our own fiberglass plant building all these things. And the Heil talk box, I built 5 of those. I got a call a year later from Penny McCall, the girlfriend of Peter. She said, "Hey, I need a Christmas present for Peter. Don't send me a guitar. He's got a lot of them." So what did I do? Of course I did. I sent her a talk box. Made his career. He'll tell you that. We've become really good friends. I was doing Humble Pie. That's how I met Peter first. And I'm going to close all this with this one. Did anybody guess this band? You should, but nobody ever guesses it. It was their first job on a tour. We were out in a park. That happens to be ZZ Top without beards. We're still with them today on doing their all of their microphones and stuff. I wrote the book. I helped them, many of the sound engineers get into the rock and roll field, and that was fun. And then I also was a major player in the satellite business. Thousands of those in Southern Illinois we put in all at the same time. We were busy little guys. But I also was on the test team for a year with DirecTV to test their little K-band. That's the first home that one was ever put into. That's the vice president of DirecTV that came to watch this happen. But anyway, it was fun stuff. We did a lot of home theaters and $100,000 and $200,000 rooms and all of that. But I got back to ham radio, but I was not happy. It wasn't good. The audio was terrible. And what happened to all my Art Collins audio? I couldn't believe what was going on. Because when I had left it 12 years earlier, it was great. But something happened. And there was something where the foreign transceivers came in. They had terrible microphones. They only had a mic gain. The wide filter was only 2K wide, and it just wasn't good. All of the sounds that I was hearing from the sideband signals with the new ones were all bassy and mushy. What is going on? Oh my! I thought I got to do something about this, and so I did. I built an equalizer, the first equalizer for ham radio, the EQ200. It's two filters. One of the filters is at 2K, 2.5K. The other one's 160. You, the operator, could minus or plus, boost or cut those two frequencies. And those are the important frequencies. You can piddle around with all kinds of things, but it all lies into 160 and 2.5K. And I wrote an article, I sent it to the league, and they called me back and they said, we've been researching. This has never been done. We cannot find anything about equalization until your EQ200. And so in 1982, July, it became the feature article and got the cover award. And I was just so blown away, quite humbly. And I didn't ever think about anything like that. But it aided so many people over the years. And wow. I had a lot of people on the air that asked me, what are you doing? And so on. And we started building them. And it was the first product for Heil Sound. Heil Sound, the sound reinforcement company, had closed in 1980. And the plant was empty. But I started getting so many requests for this. I put the schematic in the article, but I put my phone number in there. So, oh boy, all kinds of people calling, but that's okay. And I got a letter in 1999. I got a letter with a picture of a guy's station. That guy was Dr. Inouye Communications, ICOM. He had one of my equalizers. He had one of my gold line microphones, and one of my booms. We were the first company to bring booms to this industry. Why? Because you ever hear me on the air, I'm never just here. I'm soldering. I got things going. I got to have my hands free. And so I brought booms in 1980. And now, of course, we sell tens of thousands of them a month. Really, it's crazy. But Dr. Inouye said, I'm thinking of new radio line, and I like EQ. So we want to see about using your EQ200. And so history will remain. Pro 1, Pro 2, Pro 3, all the way through the line, 7610, 7851, 7300, and the little 705. All of the ICOMs have my equalizer in them. The only problem when they came out at first, people didn't know how to adjust them, and their instructions are not very good. They still aren't. So I had to get with the program, and we were just starting websites in those days. But it's really simple, and you should be taking some of these notes perhaps, because we're really going to get into it here in a minute. To adjust the ICOM radio, it's simple. You set the bass, roll it off. We don't want that bass. We want to roll that bass off a little bit, -3. But you want the treble. The bass is at 160 and the treble's at 2.5K. Do you need compression? Absolutely not. And I know that surprises a lot of people, but you don't need compression. And if you do, 1 or 2 notches. I hear these guys with 6 and 8 and 10 and, 70-80% of the compression, they sound terrible. You need to listen to yourself. Get an SDR, listen to yourself. Listen in another receiver. That's how I do it. I listen to a pair of headphones in a second receiver. And the first thing you have to do when you sit down on the radio, you have to set the bandwidth, the transmitter bandwidth. You got to know what you're going to do. If you're going to sit down and say, well, I'm just going to do some rag 2 today. Okay. What you want to do, TBW, you'll see it right there. 100 to 2900. Then you minus the bass plus the treble, like we told you, and you're beautiful. You don't have to do anything else. We're going to get into mic gain in a minute because that's very important. If you're doing DX work, you want to get into 500 to 2500. Why would we want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Well, I have a great demonstration of that. Your power, your RF power, is saturated over the bandwidth that you select. Let's look at this balloon. Let's say, well, this is crazy. No, it's not. It's kind of flat, all that. Rad chew's nice. You're going to have a little bit at 2.5 in the middle up. But then for DX work, I don't care about quality. I care about articulation. So what we're going to do here is we're going to narrow it up. Well, when we narrow it up from 500 to 2500, you've opened the 2.5, if you remember, wide open. That was one of the first things you do when you're going to set this. The only escape for RF is in the treble 2.5 region. And so when you narrow it up, where do your power go? Your power is going to go to where it's most important, 2.5K. This is another great demonstration. Listen, hearing, that's just physical process. Mentally, that's when you hear. Hearing is a mental process. Now listen, mentally listen what's going to happen here. All I am doing, I have a parametric equalizer in this mixer. I'm not turning up the bass. I'm not doing anything. I'm taking out 2.5K, and there it goes. Now, the F and the S, the P and the B, it's very hard to distinguish all of that. Now I'm going to bring it back. And all I'm doing is I'm bringing 2.5 back. And when I do, bingo. Now that S and that P and that B, it's all very, very articulate, only because of the proper setting of the equalizer. And so that's one of the big deals about setting equalization. Dr. Inigo also asked me to build a microphone. Surprise, not really if you knew it. None of these companies built their own microphone. Oh, Hal, you're full of it. This guy gets in the box. It came with a stock microphone. It's got the name on it. What are you talking about? Well, they didn't build it. It's just a microphone they buy from an OEM company. And you've been fooled all your life. He said, build me a proper mic, and we did. The ICM, it almost spells ICOM. That thing is amazing on ICOM. Won't work on Kenwood, won't work on Yaesu, Elecraft. It only works on ICOM because they're the only company that furnishes phantom power, 8 volts down the mic line to power the FET. An electret has an FET transistor in it. Did you know that? And so it has to be powered. And that's why they have so much gain. But we went a step further in that I really worked on the type of the holder and all of the things that make up the diaphragm in the electret. And it is truly one amazing microphone. Nothing like that. All the ICOM mics you got now. No, the ICM, it's the baby. It really is something special. Well, a couple of years later, I get we're at Dayton. I look up and here's this about 6 foot more Japanese guy. It was Dr. Hasagawa. His family owns Yaesu. I want to talk to you. I said, well, let's step out of the booth here. what do you got? I want to talk about that EQ stuff. I want to do it better. Well, we can do it better, but it would have to be like a parametric. Yeah, that'd be good. I said, not so fast. What would be the problem? I said, education. You see, with the little shelving I did, after a couple of years on the air, before I really got into building this to figure out where things were going, I set the frequencies 2.5 and 160. You just heard a demonstration of how important that is. Now, with a parametric, you're going to end up with probably 3 different filters. And they each have 3 different things to adjust. You don't know where any of them are. So when you sit down at a Yaesu, you have 9 buttons and you don't know where they are. And so a lot of people, and it really makes me sad, I worked hard with them to design that. A lot of people are still in the default mode because their instructions are terrible. I designed it and I look at their instructions and they're like, what is all this gobbledygook? It can be told very simply. And here's the way one of them will spell out. All of them are the same. All Yaesus are the same, from the 9,000 to the 101s. They're all identical. They have different nomenclatures or they look different, but the filters are the same. You're going to set the first one at 200 cycles. You're going to minus it 3 or 4 dB. Then the bandwidth, that's the audio bandwidth, 2 octaves, that'll be fine. What do you do with the second one? Set it about 800 or 900. There's something really weird in audio around 800 cycles. It's a real boxy sound. You want to do this as you talk, and you'll hear that. It's just a real weird boxy sound. We're going to get rid of it because we're going to notch it 3 or 4 dB. But then you already know where the third filter's going, 2.5K plus 8. And it's that simple. And that all of this stuff is on our website. It's that simple right there. Now you'll notice this chart, what we just went through, down to bottom is in red. If you turn a compressor on, you have to equalize the whole thing again. Well, I got news for you. Don't do it. With proper equalization, with proper microphone, and know how to use the microphone. We're going to get into that in a minute. You don't need compression. I don't understand why people, they just, don't get me started. And we built a wonderful microphone for that. The Yaesu guys. The PR781, it has become the podcaster's dream microphone. I love it for Kenwood and Yaesu and Elecraft, really great. We also have the PR22, terrific. That's what I'm talking in. Paul Rogers of Bad Company, he commissioned me to do this. He wanted a microphone that didn't need to be equalized. And you're listening to it. I have a little bump. Where? Of course, 2.5. And it just makes his vocals, it makes my voice so clean, so clear. It will make your transmitter so clean, so clear. But of course, all of my microphones are like that. We put that little 2.5 in there. But you just have to remember, hearing is a physical process. Everybody hears. Listening, you got to really dig. You really got to dig and get into it and so on. If you have vintage gear, which I have a ton and a half over there every day, and you don't have any equalizers, well, good old Julius Jones, that's a really nice one. But you see how he's done this. You start out and what we call feather it. You just don't go from 50 to 200. You just kind of sneak up on it, and you stay up level, and then you start to sneak up on the 2.5. That is a perfect way, perfect equalization pattern. And if you guys know about this one, believe it or not, he's still building them. Sergi UR6QW. What a great low equalizer. and it's got all kinds of stuff in it. And it's nice. It's nice. And the difference between the bandwidth filters, 2.5 is narrow, as you see, like I showed you with the balloon. And then 2.9, most all transmitters will do 2.9. And there's quite a difference. There's a little problem with some of that, in that guys will buy one of our PR 781s or a PR 40 or something. They'll call me and say, "Oh, this mic doesn't work. It sounds terrible." Well, there are some transmitters that only go 2.5. You're not going to be big full range, Not going to happen. And you have to pay attention to what your transmitter will do. And I work with a lot of the D expeditions and designing things for them. We've been building headsets for that market for many, many years. And the Pro 7 is just outrageous. It's really good. And we build a special element just for the Pro 7. It is truly the headset. Those people would tell you that you just saw. They were part of the design team for me. They wanted a balance control, so left to right. Wanted to be able to swing the boom left to right, which you can do. Very, very nice soft pads, but yet it really closes out the sound around you for when you are really contesting or out DXing. All of my headsets have a piece of steel in here. Every once in a while, I'll read something to reverb. "Oh, that Heil headset hurts my ears." You didn't read the instructions. You can shape it. You got a little pinhead like me, fine. Bend it. You're not going to break anything. It's not plastic like the rest of the manufacturers. And you got a big old wide thing. But I'll put it back to me. But then I did something they really wanted. Nobody else does it. I have a jack. If you have a logger, or if you're in a field day, and you have people want to listen, you don't need a Y cord. You plug them in right here, their headset. And then comes the biggie. I have phase reversal. We're the only company on the planet, and we've been doing this, gosh, probably better than 12, 13 years at least. Why would you have phase reversal? Because if you're in a pileup and you hear this little weakie back here, you reverse the phase and you can move him up front. You can move signals around in your head acoustically. And it is just incredible. And we build a very special element. You can see there. Where's it rise? Where's the big rise? 2.5K. Roll off that low end. Now our HC7 is just marvelous, and so many people love it because they don't have to equalize it when they're out in the field. But one of my favorite subjects is phasing, and I just hate it that we don't ever hear much about it. Why? I ask that a lot. We read stuff and these people bringing things to us. They write these big articles and they're or whatever. I never read stuff that really means something. Phasing affects everything you do. I have an incredible demonstration. I'm going to unplug this mic. Not going to play any games here. I'm going to plug it into a Y cord so I can have two mics at one time, okay? They're PR22, so they're just like the other one. If you double your power, how much are you going to gain? 3 dB. That's it. If you have 500 watts and you're not making it because you don't have equalization, the right microphone, or you don't know how to use the microphone, you're going to buy a kilowatt. Well, you just wasted your money. Here goes. When I bring this mic up to here, my meters are going to come up 3 dB. Here they go. 1, see if you can hear this. Now listen. 1, 2, 3. What? Close your eyes. Listen, mentally listen. I'm going to take away, I could take away a 500 watt amplifier. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. The human being cannot detect 3 dB. Oh, if we were in an echo chamber in a studio and all that, yeah, but not in our surroundings. But what I really wanted to do here, I have this magic little plug that I made. This magic little plug is backwards. This magic little plug, 3 is to 2 and 2 is to 3. A big deal, Kyle, because it still works. So what's the big deal? They both work. In phase, when I speak in here, the diaphragm goes down. Out of phase, when I speak into here, the diaphragm comes up. Watch the screen. Now watch it. This is very important. Very important. I have 2 signals out of phase. What happens when I talk into both of them? Nothing. They cancel. Oh, they're still working. Not together. Now, if we had another hour and a half or so, my favorite subject. I do a whole hour on phasing. I'm going to give you just a little piece of it, though. Here's the deal. Everything in ham radio, practically, is affected by phasing. Some idiot piles on top of your frequency. You're having a nice conversation with your friends. He doesn't care. So you hit the notch button in on your receiver. What happens? It goes away. How's that work? That notch filter takes his signal out of phase and he's gone. You just saw the demo of that. How does Wes Shum? Now, Wes Shum was an amazing guy. If you don't have this book, get it. This book's on Amazon. Please. Wes Shum, amateur radio's unsung hero. It wasn't all Art Collins. It was Wes. He was the guy that brought sideband to ham radio years before Art. And how do you get rid of the carrier? Sideband doesn't have carrier. How do you get rid of the other sideband? How do all these work? Dr. Yagi, he didn't have a whole bunch of equipment. How did he get the Yagi to work? Well, that was simple. What he did, took a field strength meter out in front, got that all going. And then he took on the driven element, he had a resonant driven element. And in front of that, so far, he started dealing wavelengths where it would set and how long it would be. And at the right spacing and the right length, he could get gain, no batteries needed. But if he went behind so far and the reflector was a little longer, all the experimentation he did, bingo, it was out of phase. That reflector is out of phase. This is amazing stuff. And I've always wanted to do a phased array. And well, maybe we can do this. Maybe I can do this. And so I put up a phased array. And it really is something special. And it was pretty easy to do. Put up 2 telephone poles 64 foot apart and 64 foot high. I also went down those poles, 33 foot above the ground, ran a messenger line and dropped in a pair of 40-meter dipoles. So I had 75 and 40 meters. I want to see if this is going to work. I've been having trouble with my audio on all this stuff, but let's see what we can do here. I hope this works for you. Okay. Come on here, don't do that. Where'd you go? Okay. Oh, golly. I was going to let you hear something, but again, I've been having trouble with my audio on that clip. Anyway, trust me, that those dipoles, phase dipoles, they get me at least 10 dB front to back, sometimes 18 to 20 dB. I mean, it's just outrageous. And on 40 meters, it's just a killer. And you have room 33 feet high and 33 foot apart. That's not a big deal. But oh, buddy, do they work? Do they work? And there's another little interesting thing that I learned from some things from Art Collins. A publication, write this down, don't miss this. A publication from Collins stated the most transmitting antennas of resonant dimensions elevated at a quarter wave above ground or as close to 100% efficiency as possible. I read that some years ago and I thought, wow, I wonder if that's true. When I first got on the air in 76, back on the air, I was a technician for 17 years, but I got an extra class license and I was playing around on 40 meters with some of my buddies. And we had a guy in California, New Orleans, Parma, Ohio, Florida, and then one of the guys that worked at Collins would go into the comm center there. And boy, did we have fun with all that. But I had a 70-foot tower. So what I did is I did a reference antenna at 20 foot. Bingo. And so every night when we came on the air, we would reference that to see how the atmosphere was. And the first night I came on, I was at 30 feet. A little better. Next night I went to 40. Not a whole lot better. You would think it would be. Well, higher the better, right? I went up to 50 foot. Okay. I'm going to go to 33 and a third, right? Quarter wave. Whoa. And the guys in the whole circle said yes. So then the next night I took it to 66 foot. Whoa. And so you don't read about this. Why don't you? It's so important. Here's why. Here's what happens. Your transmitted signal is the resultant of two rays, one direct from the antenna and the other from the reflected from the ground. The reflected ray travels further by the distance there. And if you could get those both together, bingo. And that is why when I would come up to that quarter wave, half wave, magic. And so you play with this and you'll see what I mean. It's really something special, but you just don't read enough about that. One of the other things that I want to talk about, and you're going to ask why, is we're going to talk about how to talk into a microphone. I hear guys, I listen every day. I'm in here at least 6 or 8 hours a day. I listen a lot. If I'm not listening to theater organ music, I'm listening to, right now it's 10 meters. Wow. And it's so discerning to me that some guys don't know how to use a microphone. What are you talking about, Hyle? Well, I learned a lot from Paul Klipsch, the father of the folded horn. Came and visited me one time, and Paul gave me this book. This book is my college education. It's 1,750 pages about anything you'd like to know about audio. One of the things in this book, every time you double the distance from the microphone, you lose 6 dB. And I hear guys like that. They're in their easy chair and they're back here and they're going, "That's okay, Kyle. You just turn up the gain." Ah, well, it sounds like I'm in a roller rink. So let me get this back. You lost your transient response. You lost your dynamic range. You lost a lot of your low information just because nobody ever showed you or told you, or you didn't think about it. You want to argue with those 1,750 pages? You never want to be more than 2 inches from a microphone. Our microphones are kind of interesting. I built this for Paul Rogers and Joe. Joe uses this for his solo mic. And they wanted a microphone that wasn't like all of the stuff that they're forced to use a lot of times because the sound companies they got some cheap Shure microphone and that's it. And it is. It's a $38 Shure. Listen to what happens. Now pay attention. I'm not changing anything. I'm just unplugging. How do you like that? And that's why you see people right here. They can't get away because when they do, it really dies. They can't get out here. They can't do it. It's got to be right here. Think about it. Every time you see an entertainer, he's got to be right here sucking it, unless it's somebody using our microphones. I'm going to go back. Listen, pay attention. A world of difference. But now watch the screen. I did an Omni design on the front. It's 180 degrees around. And it really plays for the guys. But for ham radio, it's just delicious because it does a lot for your audio. But the thing is, you have to understand to be no more than 2 inches. That's why I have booms for you. We build desk stands. I personally don't like them because you got to get down to them and all that. No, put that boom right where you need them. We make a number of different ones. But there again, these are all things you don't read in the books. And that's why I do these things, because I am not hearing or seeing anything that we really should be doing. And it's frightening to me because we should be able to do some of these things and they should publish it, but they don't. But there's just so much about phasing. And that's how we get our microphones to work so well. Joe says, I need a microphone that gets rid of all the stuff around me for my instruments and stuff. I don't want to hear all that. Now, come on here. Little did I know what was, I got to watch. This thing gets really crazy. A lot of output. Little did I know what was going to happen here, because I did this for Joe. It's a large diaphragm dynamic. Nobody's ever done this. The RE20s are only that big around. This thing's 1 3/8. All of your, whatever they are, nothing compares to the BR40, because we do some very, very, very cool things playing with, of course, phasing. Again, I have my Omni front. I know how to do that. But watch the screen. It's the only microphone that has 40 dB of rear rejection. Watch. It's gone. Oh, it still works, but it's 40 dB down. And so now the sound engineers, especially in radio broadcasting, television broadcasting, and some of the live, they love it because we can mic up guitar amps and things with this, and we don't hear anything else but this. And it's all done with phasing. What comes in the back is out of phase. I don't know why the big boys have not done this, but they haven't. But these are things that I really think that you should know about. And we can help you with making your signal better. I have some other things here in closing. Gosh, there's just so much. One of the things I want to do for you is show you what I did for the receiver. Nobody plays the receiver. Oh, well, I got a matching speaker, Kyle. I'm okay. No, you're not. You have about maybe, and I work for these companies, I know what's in there, maybe a $7 speaker in a box, and they get you for $150 because it's got the name on it. It's painted the same color. Come on, that's ridiculous. Well, I went back to the Paul Klipsch days. Paul taught me how to do this. He's the father of hi-fi. He really brought hi-fi to being. I thought it was time. It was time for us to do something really good. Look at the speakers. You'll notice they're the magnets is about as big as a speaker, and it's really a strong magnet. We had to go a lot to find those because it's hard to get magnets today of any quality, but we find them and there they are. The speaker has a 25 watt at 0.1%. All of these amplifiers, the amplifier in your transceiver, I don't care if it's a $15,000 one, is 1 watt at 10% distortion. What is wrong? What is wrong with these people? I just go crazy because they feed this stuff to us and nobody's helping you to understand what they're doing to you. Well, I did. This is the parametric receive audio system. And it is just a miracle box. First of all, it has 3 filters. 2 of them are set at 160 hertz, plus or minus 12 dB, and then one at 6K. But where is the mid-range? Well, the mid-range happens to be at, it's parametric. You put it where you want. Here we go. This is the input level. And we have the high filter. And then this is the gain and the frequency of the parametric. And the low is at 160. The output drives, of course, your speaker amp. Here's a cool thing. This is a record out. What's so neat about that is that you can listen to a signal, plug that into your computer and make a really clean recorder. You don't need a Y cord. And two very low. It's under a 0.1% distortion. Logger operator, or left side, right side if you have a hearing imbalance. A great number of these are being sold for television. You know how audio is in television. Oh my goodness. And boy, you got the equalization, you got your headphones. I have a little recording I'm going to let you hear. I took it off 20 meters. I'm going to set this up first the way you hear him. Flat. Okay. There we go. Let me, I forgot to bring this up over here. There we go. Here we go.
So India is Bravo, Alpha Bravo.
We are flat again. That's the way you hear him. No EQ. That's the way it came out of the receiver.
Alpha Micro. So
And it is flat again.
India is Bravo, Alpha Bravo.
Is there any question? I don't think so. I am so thrilled that we're helping so many people. And it really thrills me because I get people, they'll write me emails or call me and thank me for giving their radio back. Because a lot of people have some hearing problems today. There's your answer right there. And I'm really, really excited about it. But as I say, a lot of people are using it for their televisions and stuff, including me. The television has really crappy sound. It's really awful. Oh, golly, I have so much more, a bunch of on antennas and stuff, but a lot of this is in our handbook. If you don't have this, the dealers all have them, but if you go to our website, you can buy it from there. And if you buy it there, I'll autograph it for you. Just to let us know, we'll make it happen. And just a lot of things, including wire. You're going to say, what? Wire? I can guarantee you, your wire is wrong. Why? Because here we got, first of all, it's 24 gauge, some 26. It's like, what is wrong with these manufacturers? The shields are terrible. You can't pull them apart because if you pull them apart, you're going to end up with about 30% of it in the floor. And what we did, oh, they also have the push to talk line inside. Now look at that in a minute. These are 18 gauge wires. I have two of them because all of our microphones are balanced. And that's another whole deal. You should be using the balanced input, but the manufacturers don't do it. It really bugs me because they have a differential amplifier, but they don't use it. They use them unbalanced. No wonder you have RFI problems. If you did it balanced like we do in the broadcast industry, bingo. It's just unbelievable what happens to some of these engineers. We have two 18 gauge inside that shield. What's outside, the red and the blue, that's push to talk. That's DC. So in your cable, you have DC and AC from the audio all in the same little bundle. No wonder you have RFI problems once in a while. And so this is the answer. I can't tell you how many thousands of people over the years that I've done this, they love it. Broadcasters especially. And it really means a lot when you're doing things that help you. And that's what we're trying to do for you. But one last thing I should do for you is there's a couple of things about antennas. There's a friend of mine in Kansas City. He wanted to build an attic antenna, but he wanted 10 bands. And so he did it. And man, does it work. Here's what he did. Watch this. He took a piece of fiberglass and he drilled all those holes. And on the back side of it, he put a strip of aluminum. He's effectively shorting all those together. All those are connected together, making a fan dipole. And this is what it looks like when you take a look at it. And it's just enormous the way it works. He's worked hundreds of countries with this. And that's what it looks like in the attic. Here's a little better view of it. But for all the doom and gloomers, oh, that thing won't work. Well, I got news for you. Look here, I just did 40 meters. Look at that. And he cut them. Each band got where he wanted it. But the only one that was weird was 6 and 2 meters, of course. But he only wanted one frequency for a repeater. That's all he wanted, and it works great. And so those are things that people think. I love it when people think. We could be here all night on my other subject of SWR. Oh my gosh. I was on the air for probably 15 years before I ever thought about SWR. We didn't have bridges. People get so carried away. I heard a guy this afternoon. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to do that. Oh my God. I'm 1.8. Oh my God. I'll probably blow up my, what school did you come from? Give me a break. Give me a break. Anything under about 3.5, you're okay. And people in Ohio's full of it. No. Trust me. 66 years of this, I know. If you're such a SWR freak, well, put your dummy load on top of the tower and it'll be flat. I hope you're happy. But it really is not funny because there's so many people that just believe in it. Oh my God. And then the last one I'm going to show you. And that happens to be the coax connector. You go look at the handbooks and they show you got to solder through the little holes, you know. No, because you and nobody can guarantee that all of those little spiders are soldered, because they aren't. You can't. If you did, you'd melt the inners. What do you do? I learned this from that KMOX engineer. I took a piece of coax to him one time because I was really having trouble as a new ham trying to get it. Say, oh, kid, you don't do that. Well, what do? You do this. The first thing you do is you put that coax connector in a vise because it's going to get really hot. And you put about a 1/2-inch bead around it. Make sure it's 100% soldered, that bead. When it cools, then put the center conductor in it, this kind of deal. Solder that. And then cut off about 3/8 inch, real clean, and it'll solder like a dream. And bingo, you got it. Well, I always taped them up, and I never wanted to show anybody any of this because they'd make fun of me. Until, it was about 2014, I visited Tim Duffy. Y'all know Tim? K3LR, the multi-million-dollar contest station that wins them all. Went to his contest station. I look over in the corner and here's this bundle of coaxes coming down. Wow. I walked over and I looked. What do you think I saw? They were all soldered like this. I ran over and I shook his hand, put my arm around his, what's wrong with you, kid? I said, and I told him his story. He said, no, you can't guarantee all the shields soldered. No, you have to do it like that. And so I got vindicated. So then I started sharing it with all of you because it really is a cool thing. And you'll have great coax connections. How do you get it into your house? I do it with toilet flanges. When the subfloor is down, put a toilet flange down. Bingo, there's 15 coaxes coming up. Under the table, some more of them. It works great. Oh, and then somebody asked me about microphones. I guess I should show you this. I don't show this there. I ran out of time. I'm going to take the time. Because I take one microphone. This is on my desk over there. You can see it over there. Here's what happens. The microphone, I have two microphone inputs, and the coming out of that yellow lead, just like the old telephone operator. You patch up what you need. And the red one is the push to talk. And you take that push to talk and put it wherever you want across the bottom. And that works really good. And you can have one microphone and do all that. I built a case like this, and you got to use insulated jacks. You don't want any of those to touch each other. That's where you get in all kinds of oscillations and all kinds of crazy stuff. It works really good. We'll come back next time, spend a whole hour on pine board and help you guys and gals build a transmitter. There's over 1,000 of these built. I did it the last 2 years I was on Ham Nation. I wanted people to learn how to build, and boy, did some of them. That's a microphone preamp, 12X7, and of course, equalizer. Not going to have my name on it. It doesn't have equalization in it. There's one of them that's a little 2-watt transmitter. I've worked a guy over 200 miles on that, on AM. There's a guy that really went to it and built it in a righteous chassis, and there's one on the pine board. And I'm just so happy because so many people got into it. But I want everybody to write this down, please, and help me. Help me say the words. In 1950, it was actually about 55, the biggest war in ham radio occurred. It was all AM in those days. Here comes the sidebanders. They just plop down where they want. Well, it became a war. And so a guy from Paducah went down and visited one of the new sidebanders that was he was an awful guy. He was just messing up the bands terribly. He thought it was funny. Well, the guy from Kentucky knocked on his door. He had a shotgun in his hand. Now, nobody got hurt, but he got the word across. So they got about a dozen guys together and formed a gentleman's agreement that lasted from the 50s all the way up through into the 80s. But now a bunch of new hams came on. The ARRL don't give a dang. They should, but they didn't. And, so now we're starting to see wars again. 3870 to 3890. Please, if you're on sideband, you have a lot of other space. We're crystal controlled. We can't move around. So let us have our little space. It's not, we can only get 2 or 3 stations in there. You can get 100 everywhere else. 7290 to 7295. The carrier limit, this is interesting. The carrier limit on AM is 350 watts, but the PEP is legal limit. You see, that really happens, and a lot of people don't think about that PEP thing, but it's just really great things. And if you really want to get into ham radio, go find some old vintage stuff and join us, because it's way, 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 way fun. I was incredibly honored and humbled a few years back. Heil Sound was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're the only manufacturer in the Rock Hall in Cleveland. And that mixer behind me is what we built for the Quadrophenia. It's a quad mixer for the Who. And some of our speakers and the monitors. We were the first guys to do monitors. You know, the speakers you put down on the floor. Why don't they feed back? Because I have them out of phase. When I started doing that, everybody freaked out. How are you doing that? Are you a magician? No, I'm a ham. And I knew what to do. Golly, the talk boxes there and other things. And here a couple of years ago, I was very humbled. Missouri University gave me an honorary PhD for music and electronics. And it's all about ham radio. That's why I'm here. I would hope that you picked up a few things. don't be shy to ever email me, call me. I spend a great deal of my time here in my phone, and we'll get on Zoom, whatever we got to do, because it's out there. But I know a lot of the answers aren't. And so don't worry, we'll get her fixed, hopefully. You have any questions? I would hope so. Don't be shy.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to everybody to allow them to have some questions and stuff.
Yeah.
Wanted to go ahead and say one of the things that I always focused on is I started following you about, well, not long after you and I made our first contact on 6 in 2007. And we had a conversation on there back when people talked still on 6 meters.
Yes, yes.
And,
don't get me started.
And so I turned around and started developing the sound, and I've got all equalization and everything. Of course, you hadn't come out with your receive unit yet.
Yeah.
So I put in my own equalization and speakers and set everything up based on that, because it makes listening much more enjoyable.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first of all, before I pass it over to everybody, I really want to thank you for coming on board. And by the way, the ZZ Top concert, I was at that one.
No beards, right?
No beards.
Yeah,
And
people don't believe me.
Hot, sticky part.
Yeah.
On that. So anyway, we'll turn it over to anybody. Go ahead and unmute if you got any questions and stuff, and we'll go ahead and go from there. So go ahead.
I'm listening. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for your presentation. You said you were you met the CBS engineer listening on 6 meters, and you said that was remarkable because nobody was on 6 meters. Why were you on 6 meters back then?
I was a technician for 17 years. When I got on, it was the start of the biggest sunspot cycle. I mean, 6 meters, I'd come home from the theater at midnight. 6 meters was open all the time. And you could have conversations. You could talk about what kind of gear, what's your antenna, how many kids do you have, what kind of cars do you drive. Today, it's like, what's your grid square? Bye. What? Come back here. You only want my grid square. That's it. I took all my 6 meter stuff out. I don't want to hear about it because it's a wasteland. And I really hate it because it was my favorite band when it's open. And it's all because, I don't know, just people, they just don't think about what's going on and how wonderful things could be. But no, it's a damn grid square thing. It's a contest band. That's all it is anymore. And that's really sad. Are you a 6 meter operator?
Not personally. I don't think I've ever been on it.
Well, beware. You'll have a tough time trying to find somebody to talk to. It's either going to be FT8 or it's going to be what's your grid square, and they're gone.
6 meters has changed so much in just the last 10 years that it's unbelievable. Yeah. Hey, Bob, at the risk of starting an argument, and I know where you come on this, I had an argument with somebody on the proper pronunciation of Balun.
It's Balun. B-A-L, B-A-L, unbalanced. B-A-L-U-N. It's Balun. And it's certainly not Balaam. Oh, I come throwing out of the chair when I hear these guys talk about their Balaams. Who taught you? What book did you read? It's B-A-L, and it's balanced and unbalanced. We take B-A-L and we take U-N. What does that spell? B-A-L-U-N. Pretty simple, isn't it?
I'm not going to mention his name, but he's on this show right now. So
good. Put him on here. Why do you, how do you pronounce it? Who is it? How do you pronounce it, and where'd you learn it?
He pronounced it. He's not going to probably talk, but he pronounced it. What was it? Balun.
Balun.
And
is it
we had many arguments.
Is that balanced? Balanced? No, it's balanced. That's where it comes from. We have to look at the original and it's balanced to unbalanced. It's not balanced. I don't think I didn't learn it that way. So you might want to join us. Do it right.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you for a great presentation. And I was first licensed as a novice in '73, then quickly went to technician. And you're right, back then when the band was open, people would take a few minutes to visit with you and share more than just a call on the grid square and all that. And I haven't been on 6 in years, so I don't know what it's like today. But again, thank you for a fabulous program. And we're hoping that Greg can convince you to come back at some point.
You don't have to do much convincing. Send me a date and I'll be there. I love sharing all this stuff and, do a whole bunch on antennas or other things. I just have to graze on some of it, but I just can't tell you how thrilled I am that people will come to me and talk about what they've learned. And because I learned it and I just want to pass it on. And that's what we do in all these. So have fun and we'll make it happen. And I work a lot of guys in Texas on AM. So you look into that window. Oh yeah, we're there. 3880, 85, 3890. Yeah, cool.
And thank you for sharing that, because the Texas evening traffic net's 3873, and they're always cussing the AM stations that are on there. So I didn't know that story. Thank you. I'll share that with them in the future.
Well, I've tried to talk to them and they're so hard-headed, bullheaded, and stuck up. Well, I've been here for 20 years. Don't you care about the window? You have all of this room down here and all this room up here. And the only way, let me show you where I got one. The only way that we get on AM is this little guy, a crystal. You have a VFO and you can go anywhere. Why are you so obstinate? Why do you step on your fellow brother ham radio operators? Why are you doing that? And they know they're wrong. And I'm, nope, we've been here and we're not moving. And I really feel sorry for them because their whole life is ruined because of their attitudes, probably like that elsewhere. All they got to do is move out of there. But see, here again, they might not know, but I think they do. They might not know. And it's really sad when we can't get along. But back in the day, boy, it was a war. And we all got along. Once that that little episode with the guy in the shotgun, and then they sat down and 10, 12 guys said, let's be gentlemen. And they called it the gentleman's agreement. And I blame the league. I blame the league because they have never picked it up and they don't care about AM. Well, I got to tell you something. They better wake up, because one of the best AM transmitters is a 7300. Oh man, you push the button on that baby. It's great. We love them. Yeah, a lot of 7300s on there, and 890s, and all the late model stuff is really great. I had a guy with a 101 the other day. And so there's going to be more and more and more AM, and that's just not right what they're doing there on 73. So thank you. If you need any help, call me. I'll come down there and we'll see what we can do.
How old were you when you got your license?
12. No, oh, my license. I was 12 when I got the Hammond over. I was 15. I met Larry Burrows 2 weeks after, and my life changed. The engineer from KMOX. I mean, he really took me under his arm and taught me so much very early. And he wouldn't build anything for me. I'd go to his house and nope, but he'd set me down and watch me and show me. And that's where it's at, of course.
Yeah, my first transmitter was a 6-watt, 40-meter novice CW transmitter. at
Uh,
local ham helped me build single tube.
One of these guys right here,
Yep,
the
very
pine
simple.
board. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you modulate that baby with a mic preamp and so on. You can't believe how much you can work with 5 watts. It's pretty interesting.
I
Yeah,
worked quite a bit on 40 meters on 5 watts there.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I got my General, and my parents got me about Christmas that year, just after I got my General, a hot water 101. And I spent Christmas vacation getting that puppy put together.
that's great. That's great. I wish Heathkit was still around. Well, I've really enjoyed this. We have any other questions? Don't be shy.
I have one.
Oh, Ruth, how are you?
I am doing just fine.
What you have?
Well, this has got nothing to do with anything you've talked about tonight. I just want your opinion on what do you say to people who think it's okay to give a new ham an HT, especially a Bofang, for their first radio? Because to me, that's just setting them up for failure.
I agree. I agree. Because I call it's not real-time radio. And I know, I get guys like, yeah, we have this and all that. Yeah, you can use it for emergencies and your little local stuff, but they need to really get into some of the real serious stuff of ham radio. And that's because a lot of guys, I know so many guys that they get a license, a technician license, and they never go further. And you're going to say, well, you did. I was a technician, but the bands are open all the time. And I was building equipment, and that's what they need to do today. If they're going to, to get on the air, 6 meters or wherever, then they need to pay attention to where they can build things. And that's real-time radio for me, Ruth. But I know you and I are probably outcasts for that. It's just, it's just one of those things that a lot of people have to think about what we're talking about. I mean, look at that. I built that kilowatt amplifier. I built that Central Electronics. I built that Heathkit Seneca. I was only 17 years old when I did all that. And it really plays. You just have to go out there and learn how to do it. But thank you for asking that.
Anybody got any other questions?
Well, I would like to go back to the height of a dipole and
Yeah.
how you test that, because I said seen that diagram in an ARRL book, the antenna physics, and so I understand the concept. But that kind of assumes that you reflect off the ground right at the ground level, and you've got a level ground. Around here we have a drought where we've gotten 11 inches of rain. We've got caliche, which is a really dry stuff, and I'm on a hill. So I think I've got to do some trial and error to see what the height should be, because it's not like I'm on a mirror. How do you go about measuring the difference between
I don't
20
think
feet and 25 feet?
it doesn't have to be like that. You're gonna you have to think about the ground. There's 2 pieces to an antenna. A lot of people don't understand this either. There's 2 parts to an antenna. What you know about that comes off the coax, but there's a reflected piece, that reflected wave, and it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't have to be right like that. In all of my experiments, it just has to be there, and in 1/8 wave, 1/4 wave, and you'll be amazed how that works, because you're looking at better output. And it might be a little bit more if they were all absolutely parallel, but no, don't give up because you only have maybe half of the antennas like that and the ground and so on. I wouldn't, no.
But do you have a group of people that you're on with every night where they can tell you the difference, or do you just have to kind of guess whether your signal's getting out better one night than another because you raised your?
Well,
your
that's how
antenna
I report it to you. That's how I can talk about it because we did it. As I said, I had a guy in California, guy in New Orleans, guy in Florida, guy in Parma, Ohio, good buddy, and the guy running the Collins comm station. They have a station there. And so I'd come out with a 20-footer to get the atmosphere. And then we'd start in. And every time when we hit that bingo, 33 and a foot high on 40 meters or 66 foot, it was much stronger. So, hey, it's going to be that way wherever you talk and however you do it. And just put it up. And like I tell everybody, don't question it, do it. It costs nothing to try some of these things and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. And your signal, you'll get better signal reports and things will work for you. So just apply the science. That's all I know.
Well, I'll try, but it's hard to get something that's 33 feet up when you're on a hill and well, I'll try. I'll do what
Hang
I
in
can.
there. Yeah. Hang in there. Yeah. All right.
All
Yeah.
right. Let's take one last question and we'll let Bob go and stuff here tonight. Anybody got anything else? All right. Well, Bob, really appreciative of you joining us tonight. Ruth and I hope that we catch up with you again at Dayton or something, or Hamvention again sometime. And
Okay.
we appreciate your time.
Well, you can tell me how to end. I can walk out the door and everybody's okay, but I can walk over here and play a little ditty for a minute or two. How about that?
There you go.
Okay. Okay. Let's see what happens. Thanks for having me. Thanks very much. And
Thank you very much.
I'll always remember I can come back anytime, but you have a question, email me. We'll get on the phone, on the email, or we'll get on Zoom, whatever. Thanks so much, Greg, for having me.
Thank you very much, Bob. All right. Unfortunately, the sound connection for the organ didn't pass over, which is a shame. I've heard Bob play before, and it's a treat. But maybe next time we'll be able to get him to do that. Well, I thank everybody for joining our special edition of Ham Talk this month. Have a good day. 73.